Welcome to the August. Yes. I'm getting feedback.
Here. Oh, you don't have a keypad. I didn't mute that.
You're going to be technical. Just turn it down all the way. What is
You have to mute your iPad.
Okay, it is.
Oh.
Can we turn that down all the way? Because I think because of the technology, yeah. So what I'm trying to do is Martha is in another country, and when she raises her hand, I'm trying to use my iPad to say yes instead of having Shannon from over here say Martha wants to speak. I'm trying to be timely, and it's not working.
So the policy advisor is watching. Please come in the room. Or Paul or Sonia, you've been through this. I think you have to totally turn off the sound on the iPad.
You do. You have to mute it. I don't know how to mute it without a keypad.
Okay, we're going to go
Oh,
ahead.
look.
I turned the sound all the way down on the
Solution. Well done, Shannon. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Shannon.
Now it's my turn, but I'll be quick.
I tell you the victories we need to, need to relish on this. Okay, welcome to the August 17, 2021 Policy and Issues session. And my microphone wasn't on. Who would turn that off? Okay, can we get going, Gary?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So Commissioner Schrader is on Zoom. The other commissioners are present in the room. We have a lot to do today, and we'll stay until we're done. How's that? Thank you, everyone. So first, several updates. American Rescue Plan Act update. Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director. There was a memo in your packet, Commissioners. Please go ahead, Nancy and Elizabeth.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Nancy Bush, and I'm the county's operating officer. Before we get to the memo that was in your email, I just want to let you know that we met this morning. We are talking about businesses, and we're actually looking for the data related to what businesses have been most impacted. So when we look at that $4 million, and through that equity lens, we can get the money out to businesses that have not been supported before and those types of things. I realize it's taking a little bit longer than we had expected, but BCS has been really good to work through those issues with us, and we're also working with our the BRCs on that as well. We are also collecting information about the nonprofits as well, those that have been very active during COVID but may not have been supported, and also trying to make sure that we're matching those up and getting the money out to the facilities and to the groups that have been underfunded through COVID. So in your packet, you should have received two things. One of them is something you had seen before, which is what money has been approved by the county commissioners. And the other one is just a list that is a working list that we have had for our committee. There are several things on there. Again, I just want to say this is just for transparency, we were trying to put everything in the same place, so we had a list to work from. The committee is not saying yes or no to any of these things, except for those things you've already approved. There's just a couple things I want to point out. One of them is the EOC COVID response operations. There is an estimated $5 million more in there. We are very concerned that we need to have something set aside for COVID and that response, because from what I understand, we're not going to get more money for COVID, so we have to take it out of ARPA to make sure that we can go through 24 for that support.
Go through what?
2024, which is how long this money, we have to have it spent by December of 24.
So I want to clarify your last statement.
Sure.
We need to have enough money set aside through ARPA that we can manage our COVID emergency the next 2.5 years, correct?
Yes. Which we hope.
We have no idea what that's going to look like.
We don't. And what dollars, as we've talked about before, the dollars that we do set aside, if we don't spend them, then of course we can put them in other areas.
So I think maybe that this board might want to revisit some of their thinking over some time.
Yeah, and that's, we're bringing it up because things were looking really good, right? Whenever we first talked about that 3 million
Right.
initially.
Right.
Things aren't looking as good right now. But we all hope that goes away quickly, but we just wanted to point that out. So, and then also there's some things that, we had that last column. We have some state legislature, the state legislature, as well as some other sources, were able to give some dollars to some of these projects. And just for an example, the clinic has gotten over $1.2 million for the Clackamas Volunteers Clinic. So we don't know if they're going to need anything or if their request has changed for the opera dollars. So we wanted to make sure that you had that information as well as we look at this.
Hey, Nancy, I'm so sorry, but I was multitasking.
We
Could you
were-
repeat that
you know,
last
oh,
sentence?
yeah.
I'm
Please.
sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I was, the sounder that was bothering me. And
Yeah,
I
no
had to
worries.
get it turned off.
Yeah, just the receiving funding from 2021 state legislature or other sources, which is the last column. We put that in there. I know that you asked for that, but we wanted to make sure that that was there. One of the things that just pointing out, the Clackamas Volunteers in Medicine, they have gotten over $1.2 million from other sources, actually 2 other sources. One of them here is at the county with our CDBG dollars. So we have like to be determined there because we don't know if they're going to ask for any dollars from ARPA. But for transparency's sake, we wanted to make sure we left it on the list because they did ask for some dollars up front.
That would be Commissioner Fisher, that would be phase 2 of the Volunteers in Medicine. They're hoping to go out. They had some pretty positive sounding grants.
Yes.
And maybe we could wait to see if they get that grant money. I think they're starting with the fundraiser next month sometime.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
could be patient with that request,
Yeah.
but thank you for that, Nancy.
Yeah, and from what I understand, like you said, that they're pretty positive about being able to get more dollars because they have this established already. And then the last thing there you'll see for the conversation for me is the lost revenue. That is, if you look at the bottom, we just put all together there what we have so far for lost revenue. And this goes, you may have to help me, some of these go through 2020, some of them through 21, but we can do lost revenue through 24, correct? So what you're seeing here is just a portion of what we could get for that particular effort.
Paul.
So excuse me, I got a question. My question is, on the lost revenue, is the lost revenue not going forward, experience going forward, but it's looking back? Lost revenue looking back,
And it can be both.
can be both.
Well, we can look forward, but we won't claim it until each year occurs.
Okay, so my point is, God forbid that this COVID thing gets really bad and we're into a repeat cycle of last year. We could experience more financial difficulties as a consequence. That's my
Yes.
point.
Yes. So as we're looking at this and we're looking at the list and, things that, the commissioners have brought to our attention, and then we've had, people from the county, have things for the county fairgrounds, et cetera. It becomes complicated, and it's like, so we'll take a look at this, but we might say, well, what if we cap, for example, what if we cap our lost revenue at X? So if we go over that in the years, in whatever, then we only have this cap because we know we're spending our other dollars in other places. So that's what the group is kind of talking about at this time, and would like a little bit of feedback from the commissioners, of course, if you'd like to see that. But there are particular projects that, like the jail bunk beds, that we might say, well, we say, yes, we're going to do this project. That's an example. We're not saying that. And then for these areas, we say, this is where we cap it.
Okay, I also asked a question on lost revenue. We don't have to reimburse the lost revenue at 100%. It can be 50 or 60 or 70%, whatever this board decides they want to do on that. Because we haven't gone into debt because of lost revenue, correct, Gary?
That's correct. Yep.
So we would be paying back, I would like, I guess, Gary, is it possible to determine, is there a department that needs their lost revenue more than others? I mean, is there any dire situation out there that we're not aware of? I guess that's kind of a hard question because there's always winners and losers and stuff, based on percentages, not whether they would get it or not. I think that's kind of a hard question.
I ask Elizabeth, are you aware of any department that's in dire financial straits because of the lost revenue?
I am not.
Okay. So at this point, no, but that could occur as these continued lost revenues
That could
go forward.
happen, yeah. Paul, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if we really need that much of a decision today. I think saying 50% might not be a bad idea, or some number like that, say, if we were to do this, you know, as this evolves. But I would love to see a report or some kind of summary on each of these line items under lost revenue. Like, what did the CCSO, what does that look like? Where was that? Was that in the jail? Was that in overtime? Was the overtime, you know, uniquely higher last year because of COVID, compared to prior years, you know, and same thing goes with Wes and everything else. And, you know, I would just love to know more details as to, you know, how those numbers were and what they really experienced, to know if that
Right,
is going to put
sure.
them in a hardship.
Right, right.
And I know Elizabeth has collected that information, so we should be able to pull that together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I want to be fair
Yeah.
on the
Well,
lost revenue.
and there may be discussions around, you know, it's like, well, this department, this was the project they were supposed to do, and it's like, it was really important for the county and maybe part of one of the goals. You know, we may determine that, it's like, yes, let's do 100% of that. That's why this gets very complicated, you know, and trying to move forward, and it's like, how do we spend the money and plan out through '24 and what that may look like.
Sure, okay.
Other questions?
Gary, I don't hear any other questions.
So it's just an update for you, more to come.
Yeah.
We're still waiting for final guidance from the Treasury, which any day now, right? That's what we're hearing.
Shortly.
Any day, shortly.
Shortly.
So we'll keep you posted.
Yes.
When you're back from your recess, we hope that we'll have some
Yeah.
concrete
And
information.
just quickly, too, while you're on recess, we'll be turning in our first report, which is due the 31st of this month, to the feds, to the Treasury.
Go forth and conquer. Thank
Right.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Concord School Land Use Application Update. Sarah Eckman, Interim Director of Business and Community Services, and Mike Bork, Director of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, have a quick update for us, for you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. There was some question about a ordinance coming through from the Clackamas County Planning that would impact Concord School, but the action that is being proposed is not directly related to the Concord site plan. So basically what's being proposed is a zoning development ordinance that's going to make it easier for government offices to be occupied in different zones.
I see.
And so this has been brought in several instances, both in the master plan and in a couple of reports. And we got a request to have a letter of recommendation written by either BCS or maybe both. I don't recall exactly who was asked, but it was brought up because it just kind of seemed to come out of the blue. But it isn't, and it's not anything that, again, is directly named to Concord. But were it to be acted on and changed in the ZDO, it would impact our ability, specifically in the future Concord planning for Parks and Recreation offices, but also affects other county operations as well.
I see. I kind of like the idea. Paul, you have a comment?
Yeah, I don't have a problem going forward with the land use piece of this, but I do think, I would like, frankly, Mr. Bork's not aware of this, he's new, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great to have you on board. But the Concord property was never a part of the NCPRD while any of the master plans were underway. It's something that came afterwards. The issue of offices may have been, I'm sure, but I would certainly like to know how much, knowing we have funding shortfalls everywhere, how much of the office elements of the Concord project monetarily are part of the overall project. for example, what portion? I'm not sure I've seen that number, and I know about the gymnasium, I know about the library, I know about other facilities, the grounds and so forth, but I don't know what element, cost added to putting, improvements in offices and the space requirement. I'd love to know that number.
We can find that out.
Yep.
Yeah. Good. So go ahead and do what you need to do.
This was in a policy session update to the board a while ago, maybe a year and a half ago, as part of a Concord update. So you were briefed on this, but I didn't remember either, which was why I asked staff just to remind you as this is going through the process, in case you're asked about it.
Yes, that's fine. I think go ahead.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you for the update. Okay, next, compensation for the county administrator and county council. Heather Pedersen, Classification and Compensation Manager for Human Resources, will present. Will you give the background, or do you want me to kick it off, or like why we're here, what we're doing? You want me to do that? You do that?
Sure.
Me? All right,
How about me?
go ahead.
Yeah, I'd rather have Heather. Thank you, Gary.
Okay.
Gary, you can just sit back and.
I'm just going to
Yes.
relax, thank you.
Yeah, take a little cruise
That
over there.
works. That works. So good afternoon. Thank you so much. So we're here to discuss the compensation for county administrator and county council. Those are the two positions that report directly to this board. And as such, you have the responsibility to review their performance of the incumbents in those classifications and to adjust the individual salaries as you deem appropriate. So over the last 2 weeks, this board has reviewed the performance of these individuals. In addition, I have shared the results of our annual market study for these two positions. And so, in addition to that, you had requested a recommendation from Human Resources related to the compensation method for both county administrator and county council. That recommendation was included in this packet. It's a memo from Evelyn Minor-Lawrence, who's our HR director, and myself, essentially recommending that this board adopt a flat compensation method for both county administrator and county council. And this is very similar to what other jurisdictions do for these executive positions within other jurisdictions. As I mentioned in the memo, the flat pay rates of these other jurisdictions can make it difficult to benchmark for the purposes of market study at times. And the concern has been that it fluctuates based on who's in the position. So if you hire someone new, from year to year, it can look very different looking at compensation. So the purpose of a flat pay rate for these two positions allows this board to maintain the flexibility to compensate as you deem appropriate, and also allows us to look at the market for these positions annually, and we'll continue to do that. Were there any questions about the recommendation from Human Resources on that matter?
Oh, go ahead.
Just one, so if it goes flat, that means the classifications go away.
The classifications don't go away. It just means that we no longer have a salary grade associated with those classifications like we do now. So right now, we have assigned salary grades for every classification in the county. That's reflected in the pay plans. I would still recommend that the flat rates are
what?
I would still recommend that the flat rates are outlined in the pay plans for transparency.
Sure.
You just wouldn't have a minimum and a maximum. You'd have one rate similar to how the elected officials' positions are reflected in the pay plans.
Okay, I misspoke, I meant salary grade, so, okay, great.
Okay. Any other questions regarding flat rate versus pay grade? Any other comments regarding the compensation package that has been put forward to us today that we're going to vote on?
Well, yeah, I'd just like to just give my appreciation to both legal counsel and the administrator for, outstanding leadership in light of all the disasters we've had, and great service. I just am struck by how responsive they've been, and through the very tough times, Gary, especially with the management responsibility you have for the number of employees and departments and all these disasters. Mr. Madcore as well for his partnership, collaboration, and cooperation. We've been through hell, and you performed really well. So I just wanted to acknowledge your great work, and so I think you're well-deserved the salary that we're putting forth here today, salary increase. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to also say that I've had, since I came on as a new chair in January, that both Stephen and Gary have been very patient with me in bringing me along and instructing me. With Stephen, he and I always like to quit back and forth on discussions regarding the law. And it's fun for me. And his vast knowledge never ceases to amaze me. I think he has represented Clackamas County well. He manages his staff well. His staff seems to be very dedicated to their work, and I think that's because they have a good leader in our Chief County Council. I want to thank you very much for that, Stephen. I appreciate that you have decided to have your career in public service, because you could probably make a lot more money going to a large firm in Portland, where they would probably want to have you, but you don't get to go. Now, as for Gary, I remember you well when you were the department director of PGA, and you took care of your commissioners wonderfully. I can remember trips to DC where we would visit the Hill. You would always be there. You were so attentive to me, and I'm going, Gary, quit spoiling me, quit spoiling me. And I kind of regret those words, because that was a great role for you in that. This role, as our county administrator, and you look at the two other counties, you probably do more as administrator in your role because of all the different programs and areas that we are in. Plus we have 16 cities, plus we have more diverse needs, for instance, agriculture and timber. The other counties don't. And then not to mention our natural disasters. And you've been a great resource for me in advice, learning going forward, learning to develop relationships, how to maintain my relationships. And I feel that you're really ancillary to helping me in my leadership role. And I just appreciate you very much and everything you do for people. I think you're always good-hearted. I've never seen a mean bone in your body whatsoever, and I appreciate that a lot. Would any of the other commissioners like to say anything?
I think that you both said it very well. We're very fortunate in Clackamas County to have quality staff, so really appreciate the work.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes, and thank you, Gary, for keeping an eye on the budget and making us live within our means. And Stephen, thanks for keeping us out of trouble and keeping the money here, not there. Thank you.
I will accept a motion to accept the salary cap, or the salary, yeah, Paul?
Yeah, Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the salary recommendation. I did want to just notice that Commissioner Schrader was in the attendee list and not in the participant list, so
Yeah, we're having trouble with that. Do we know she's here?
She's in there.
she may want to,
Oh,
She's in.
okay, I don't see her hand. Commissioner Schrader, are you there? Can you unmute yourself? Can you hear me? Hello.
she's close.
Okay, we'll just wait. On the motion, Paul, do we want to do just one motion for the two subjects, or we do want to do two motions?
That was my intent.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
It was both.
I'll leave it for you, and then we'll have Martha come in. You know, clear across half the world is certainly a technical challenge for us, isn't it? I'm sure we'll get the bugs worked out. What time is it over in England anyway?
It's 8 hours ahead of us.
8.
So, almost midnight.
I'd be asleep. But you know, she's a night owl. This is where she flourishes, right?
Mr. Schrader's mic and video are on, but I do not know if she can hear us.
We may not be able to hook up with her then.
I'll just give it one more minute. Is that okay?
There she is.
Because I really would like her to be here.
watching her. It's just kind of funny.
Watching who?
Martha,
Can you see her?
yeah.
See, I can't
It's like
see
the
her.
camera's going, "Whee." No, she shut herself off now.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I don't have that view, but you know
Why
what?
don't we go forward?
Okay, Paul, I'm going to hear your motion.
Okay, well, I move to approve the flat rate for the administrator and the county council, and the salary grade increases for both the administrator and legal counsel.
Seconded.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Scholl. Any further discussion on this?
Heather?
Yes.
Heather, go ahead.
So I believe you've approved the flat rate method of payment. I don't know that we've determined the actual payment, the compensation increase, if you've approved an increase for the year yet.
Do we need to state that increase?
Yes, I believe so.
I'll listen to an amended motion, thank you.
The percentage.
The
If you're
percentage.
allowing the percentage, you discussed in executive session, that's where you would make that statement now.
3.5% and 5%.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion to include that the salary increase for legal counsel at 3.5% and for the administrator at 5%.
Mark?
Seconded.
And do we understand the motion presented? Any other comment? Seeing none. Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader, can you hear us?
There she is.
Chair Smith?
Aye. I assume Martha said yes.
She did not respond. I don't think she can hear us.
Okay, motion passes 4-0, and I believe in spirit Martha has voted yes as well. Motion passes.
Thank you, commissioners, very much. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Heather. All right, business meeting agenda review for this Thursday, August 19th, 2021. It's a 10 a.m. business meeting. As of this moment, it's entirely consent agenda. Today, you'll be discussing a potential resolution on agricultural that you may add to this, you potentially will add to this Thursday's meeting. And my request is all the consent agenda items you're about to hear also go to this Thursday's meeting. So which means if that does come to pass, you will have a presentation on the agricultural resolution and then a very lengthy consent agenda. That will be your agenda for this Thursday, your last meeting for 2 weeks as you are about to go on a board recess. If you have any questions on any items on the agenda, please let me know, and we're happy to answer those for you. With your permission, Chair, I'd like to move to the consent agenda item next, and then we'll come back to the further board updates. Is that okay?
Yep, please.
Okay, I'm actually going to go in reverse order, mix it up. So Water Environment Services, you're first. Come on up. Ron, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Water Environment Services and the Clackamas River Water Providers for Clackamas River watershed activities. The agreement is for $50,000 total, funded through the WES Surface Water Operating Fund. No general funds are involved. So Ron, just a quick 1-minute update and then answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you. Ron Waringa with Water Environment Services. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This we're asking for today is your approval of an IGA with Clackamas Water Providers, which is a municipal partnership of the drinking water providers in the Clackamas River. The IGA we've had a relationship with the water providers for about 10 years, and this will add 5 years of activities to protect source water in the Clackamas watershed. This is aligned with WES's watershed health strategic priorities and funds things like spill prevention and response, pollution prevention education, some water quality monitoring, which we're partially required to do through some of our permits. So it's been a good relationship with the water providers so far, and we'd like to continue that with your approval.
Any objection or questions? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Next, the Sheriff's Office. Request to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas Community College for the 2021-2022 GED classes at the Clackamas County Jail. Total agreement cost is $29,650, funded through county general funds, budgeted within the Sheriff's Office jail operations and jail levy budgets. Captain Eby, please go ahead.
Thank you. Captain Eby, Jail Commander, Clackamas County Jail. We're asking today to approve to supply with 340 hours of instructor time for those who are incarcerated in our facility, to supply them with educational resources so that they can apply and get their GEDs.
I think that's great. Any other objections, questions? Go forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Approval of a resolution approving the renaming of the Milwaukee Center to the Milwaukee Community Center. The total cost will be $3,000, funded through the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Milwaukee Center Building Maintenance Budget. No county general funds are involved. Mike, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't have much more to add on that, other than this has had broad-based support from all the interested parties. So if there are any questions.
Any other comments on this? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
It's a great place.
Tourism and Cultural Affairs, I don't see, oh, sorry, Samara, you're hiding, my apologies. Sorry, Samara. Approval of a contract to receive state transient lodging tax funds from Travel Oregon to implement the Mount Hood Gorge Regional Tourism Plan for fiscal year 21-22. This is a revenue contract for $194,210, funded through Travel Oregon's Regional Cooperative Tourism Program. No county general funds are involved. Samara, go ahead.
Great, thank you. So Samara Phelps, Executive Director for Clackamas County Tourism, and this is to continue our work as the regional lead for the Hood Gorge region, which expands beyond Clackamas County, but is entirely funded with the transient lodging tax from the state, and our portion of it for this year.
Any objections? Hearing none.
All right, next, approval of a contract to receive regional recovery and stability funds from Travel Oregon for the Mount Hood Gorge Region Program. This is a funding agreement for $107,429 in revenue funded through Travel Oregon. No county general funds are involved.
And this fund is a special pandemic response, essentially. It's a recovery and resiliency for the regions. We would be down about over 30% in our revenues for this coming year without this additional funding from Travel Oregon. And so we really appreciate this opportunity to receive stabilized funding.
Yeah, I like these two agreements on here, right? Yeah. Any objections, comments? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, Samara. Commissioner Schrader is back online and can speak with us now, FYI.
Oh, Commissioner Schrader, would you like to speak about the two actions we took regarding Stephen Madcore and Gary Schmidt?
She is still not able to hear us. We're working through that technical issue.
I apologize. I thought, never mind.
Okay.
She's here, but not hearing us yet.
Okay, go ahead,
Back to
Gary.
consent agenda, so I'm going to skip to go to finance next. First, approval of a contract with Cintas Corporation for countywide uniform services for a total of $448,200, funded through individual departments, some of which use county general funds. We have Elizabeth and Krista. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director with the county, and yes, we are wanting to renew this contract with Cintas through October 31st of 2023. It is under a larger uniform services contract under Omnia Partners, and that contract is also good through October 31st, 2023 to get these rates, and we do have several departments that utilize this contract, DTT, Roads, WES, and so we ask for your consideration. Retro back to July 1st of 2021. We had a bit of an issue with the terms and conditions, so it was delayed in getting ready for you today.
Any comments, objections to this? Hearing none.
Next, FEMA infrastructure contract for the 2021 winter ice storm. No dollar figure is, there is no dollar figure at this time, and no county general funds are involved. Krista, please go ahead.
Yes, so this will be for recovery funds for the ice storms that we had. Our current estimate in finance is about $4.7 million of expenditures to mitigate the damages from the ice storms. So while FEMA provides a draft agreement, they don't promise you the dollars up front. We have to go through a process of vetting the projects. But this is the grant agreement, and we're expecting to get 75% back of those dollars. So
Of the
about
4.7?
$3.5 million.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so we are submitting this for your consideration and we're asking for a fast track, given the board's recess. So if we're hoping it could be placed on the consent agenda for this Thursday.
Okay. Any objections or questions about this? Hearing none, and it's okay, but on this.
Actually, everything here is going to this Thursday's meeting, so. Very good. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, finally, Health, Housing, and Human Services. There's a long list. We'll go as quick as we can. First, approval of a grant agreement with Ride Connection to provide funding for specialized services specialized service rides provided by members of the Clackamas County Transportation Consortium. Total agreement amount is $483,913, funded through the State of Oregon, Oregon Department of Transportation, Special Transportation Formula Funds. No county general funds are involved. Rod, go ahead.
Yes, and just add a little bit more. This adds $160,742 for fiscal year '22 and $165,565 for fiscal year '23. These services are focused on seniors and persons with disabilities, helping these populations to remain independent and engaged in the community as long as possible. This agreement is for four specific centers in Hoodland, Welch's, NCPRD, which is North Clackamas Parks and Rec, Malala, and Sandy. And the next 10 of these will be very similar. These are all for transit.
Okay.
No general funds.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Next, approval of an agreement with Ride Connection to provide funding for rides provided by the Social Services Division Transportation Reaching People Unit. The agreement amount is $4,182, funded through the Federal Transit Administration grant. No county general funds are involved.
Again, very similar program. This will provide rides that originate inside the TriMet Service District. Funding pays mileage reimbursement, stipend to volunteer drivers. No general funds.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Next, approval of a grant agreement with Ride Connection to provide funding for specialized service rides provided by members of the Clackamas County Transportation Consortium. Total agreement amount is $509,864, funded through the State of Oregon, Oregon Department of Transportation, Special Transportation Formula Funds. No county general funds are involved.
This amendment adds $166,596 for fiscal year '22 and $179,923 for fiscal year '23. This would be approval to add funding for transportation reaching people senior center-based transportation services for those who live outside of the TriMet Service District. No general fund.
Any objections to this? Seeing none.
Next, approval of an agreement with Ride Connection to provide funding for rides provided by volunteer drivers under the Vets Drive Vets program. Total agreement amount is $5,047, funded through the Federal Transit Administration grant. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, and this would fund a program for volunteer veterans driving other senior and disabled veterans. Volunteer drivers pass background checks and go through training for this program. No general fund involved in this one.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Next, approval of an agreement with Ride Connection to provide funding for rides provided by volunteer drivers under the Vets Drive Vets program. Total agreement amount is $206,670, funded through TriMet General Funds and Federal Transit Administration grant, Oregon Department of Transportation funds. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, and this is for volunteer drivers pass background checks as well. Agreement is specific to Estacada, Lake Oswego, Milwaukee, Gladstone, and Oregon City senior centers. No general fund.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Next, approval of an agreement with Ride Connection to provide funding for vehicle maintenance of Ride Connection-owned vehicles operated by social services, transportation, reaching people, and community center-based transportation. Total agreement amount is $51,800, funded through agreements with the State of Oregon, Elderly and Disabled Transportation Fund, and Federal Transportation Grant Funds. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this one's a little different. This is agreement to provide pass-through funding for vehicle maintenance. No
Any
general
objection?
fund is involved.
Seeing none.
Next, approval of grant agreements with Ride Connection to provide funding for rides provided by social services, transportation reaching people. This amendment increases the total value to $222,284, funded through the State of Oregon, Oregon Department of Transportation, Special Transportation Formula Funds. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, and this amendment would add $112,237 for fiscal year '22. And most of these rides are for medical appointments, but may also be for food banks, grocery stores, and other personal businesses. No general funds in this one.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Next, approval of a grant agreement with Ride Connection to provide funding for rides provided by social services, transportation reaching people. This amendment increases the total value to $62,907, funded through the State of Oregon, Oregon Department of Transportation, Special Transportation Formula Funds. No county general funds are involved.
This amendment adds $31,763 for fiscal year '22. No general funds, and this is also for medical appointments, but could be for food bank, grocery stores, and other personal business. No general fund.
Any concerns, objections? Seeing none.
Next, approval of a grant agreement with Ride Connection to provide funding for rides provided by social services, transportation reaching people. This amendment increases the total value to $63,595, funded through the State of Oregon, Oregon Department of Transportation, Special Transportation Funds. No county general funds are involved.
This agreement or this amendment adds $32,110 for fiscal year '22. This mostly rides for medical appointments on this one, and no general fund is involved.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Next, approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with the City of Lake Oswego Adult Community Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents. Maximum agreement value is $124,877, funded through the Older American Act and Ride Connection pass-through funds. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, services include home-delivered meals, health promotion activities, transportation, and information and referral activities in the Lake Oswego area. No general fund.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Finally, approval of a subrecipient agreement emergency shelter grant with Clackamas Women's Services. The Emergency Solutions Grant funds $41,254 as a grant funded by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development funds. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, CWS provides emergency shelter services to survivors of domestic and sexual violence, including safety planning, advocacy, and assistance navigating systems, case management, crisis intervention, information and referral, support groups, and counseling. No general fund is involved with this one.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Thank you, Rod. So we'll put all of these items on this Thursday's business meeting agenda, then you're all caught up. Commissioner Schrader is back online, and she can hear you. So if you want to try one more time.
Hello, Commissioner Schrader. How are you?
Yes, sorry for the technical difficulties.
You know, that happens. Is there anything that you would like to add to any of the conversations or issues we have previously discussed?
Well, I'm hopeful that we did approve Gary's.
We did,
salary
and
increase.
if you would like to make a comments regarding Gary Schmidt and or Stephen Madcore, you're free to do so now.
Well, I just want to let you know that it is well-deserved for us to have such stellar people working for us. So 2 thumbs up for both increases.
Martha, you were absent for the vote. Would you like to vote for that now and have it added to the record?
Yes,
And you vote in favor?
yes, I do.
And that vote carries 5-0, unanimous vote. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate
Oh.
I appreciate your flexibility.
Yeah, of course, of course. You know what, we can't always
Okay.
control everything we want. Okay, Gary?
Okay, back to the issues list. Administrators Housing Task Force update. Commissioners Savas and Schrader, if you'd like to give an update from our last meeting, please.
Not much. We had, due to vacations and so forth, but we did discuss trying to prepare for discussion at Metro regarding the LIP and taking that draft document that we discussed last week and making some improvements to that offer more explanations so we can be better prepared. And that's really all I really have for today. Gary, unless I left something off, is there anything that you remember?
Those are the highlights. We're meeting again this Thursday. There's some things we need to finalize before the board recess, and since you won't be meeting again, we'll update you by email, commissioners. Then when you're back from your recess, we'll be full steam ahead on moving forward on the things we have left to finish on this.
And I'd just like to clarify that essentially what we've been looking at is scenarios in order to see how we can start fulfilling our obligation to these services. And that people need to understand that it is scenario planning, and they need to know that we are committed to moving forward in implementing the services as the money comes in.
Commissioner Fisher. Hey, thank you, Chair Smith. I'm just going to go ahead and read this. I'd sent it on Thursday and I have not received a response. On this Thursday's consent agenda item are the agreements to start rolling out the supportive housing services funding. And my questions are, I am concerned that we are supplanting SHS funds for the services the county previously funded. We are not allowed to backfill with SHS dollars. If we would have implemented the LIP, Local Implementation Plan, as approved using supportive housing services dollars, this would not be a concern because Clackamas County was very transparent that we were planning to use our existing allocations outside the metro boundary, but within our jurisdiction. Especially now with Metro suggesting that we ask them to advance us all of the gap dollars to implement our full plan, we do not have any reason to not implement the local implementation plan. I can anticipate that this course of action with only 10 million allocation could cause us significant challenges and jeopardize the approval of our plan. So I am really concerned about that. As you know, I have been the liaison on the Metro Oversight Committee. I've been privy to all of those conversations. I think that we could remedy this concern with a supplemental budget, as Jill Smith had suggested that she was going to recommend when she presented at the Metro Oversight Committee, and as Commissioner Schrader had suggested, to enter into a conversation with Metro to look at that gap funding.
Well, thank you for that, Commissioner. Here is how I'm seeing it. We can certainly, and I'll let Commissioner Savas jump in if he needs to, we certainly can ask for continued capital funding should the need arise. But I do want to remind you that one of the reasons we prioritized the programs that we did was because they were grants that were going to go unfunded. They were done. And it was at your advice in my office that if we did not use the funds for that people would be out on the street. At least that's what I recall. So from my perspective, we're really attempting to maintain programs that have lost the funding. And I know that you've been looking for other funding for that, and that we remain fully committed to the local improvement plan. What we need from Metro and our partners is the certainty of the dollars coming in so we can do a complete implementation. The question is not whether or not we're committed to complete implementation. There's just been some uncertainty. And so for us to be fiscally responsible, we're really attempting to stabilize those programs that had grant funding that fit the criteria of the local improvement plan, with the full intention, as the money comes in, to continue that implementation. And I'm hopeful that Metro will understand that. Our concern is that, at least from my perspective, since there has been uncertainty about the amount of dollars that have come in, I personally listened to a Metro conversation where they said, oh, well, the reason the dollars haven't come in is because of COVID and all these other issues. And I thought that was interesting since quite frankly, even before we moved ahead with this, I saw that that was going to be problematic. So I think the message to Metro is We're moving ahead. If we need capital dollars as we roll this out, we can certainly readdress that. But we are really trying to move forward in a very cautious, fiscally responsible way. I am well aware of the heartbreak of the emergency we're facing, but we first have to make sure that those grants that have run out will not put people on the street, and that became our main priority. And so I don't know, Commissioner Savas, if you have any other, anything to add with that. I haven't been the liaison. I'm more than happy to talk to Metro about the dilemma we're in, because as you know, we do not have the same revenue streams as Multnomah County or Washington County. And in particular, since we're a wildfire county, we have to make sure we have contingencies and reserves for what we can expect to be those major emergencies again, which actually significantly displace people from their communities and their homes.
Yeah,
So
Commissioner Schrader.
I appreciate everything. Yeah.
I so appreciate the intent and the effort and the absolute, you're absolutely correct. It is absolutely essential that we fund the people that were placed into shelter, especially through COVID, and that is our number one absolutely responsibility. My concern is that this was all framed we created a plan. It's a plan that the price tag on this plan was a conservative price tag of $24 million, which includes things like outreach and case management and helping to get people that are on the streets right now to begin the building of that infrastructure to get those people housed. What the $10 million plan does, as best as I can understand, I understand I'm not part of the task force. I haven't been briefed. I've just reviewed spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet, but I'm pretty familiar, so I think I got the gist of it. It is redirecting the resources to deal with the current need. What I am suggesting is how we get through this is to do what Jill Smith had suggested that she was going to suggest to our board, which was to do a supplemental budget for $24 million, so at least our staff has the authority and ability to plan for the implementation of the local implementation plan, and then for us as a board to direct our staff to engage with Metro on the possibility of them providing that bridge funding for where there is the delta for each quarter of this fiscal year. Those are the two things that can solve this problem, and I'm bringing that up because I'm going to have a serious problem in doing a vote on Thursday, which I believe violates the local implementation plan that I participated in as the liaison and also through the Metro Council. We really can't just use those dollars to fund existing services. We need to also implement our plan, which we could do with that supplemental budget and with bridge funding. And then just my last little thing, and then I'll be quiet. I did reach out to many organizations and foundations, and the other thing I also suggested was that Metro or any other jurisdiction advance dollars. And that possibility is actually on the table for us. It will just take this board to just direct our staff to engage in that conversation.
Gary Schmidt.
Thank you, Commissioner. We did see your email you sent last week about this consent agenda item, and staff did respond because I was copied on it. So I'm sorry that somehow that got misplaced, but you raised a serious concern, and I think it needs to be addressed right now, and that's why I asked Jill and Rod to come to the table. We are not violating the LIP or the use of these funds, so can you please correct that for the record right now?
We can only implement a plan that we have funding to implement. So while we could consider a supplemental budget of 24.5, we don't have that funding. So I think as this rolls out, I've heard Commissioner Savas and Commissioner Schrader commit that if we can utilize the full 10 million, we will seek additional funding. I mean, I've heard that again and again, so I think that is the intention. And I just want to clarify that when I spoke to Metro Council, I shared with them that I knew our board was committed to finding funding if possible, and was committed to our plan, and I don't think that was overstating. I know that there's a commitment to the plan. Funding available. So I don't think we're in violation of our plan. Negotiation of the IGA includes the fact that you can't implement a plan that doesn't have a taxing increment behind it. Another part of the IGA that's being negotiated is the whole displacement piece. That 8.2 million was based upon services for the whole county. There's a lot of issues linked to that, and I do not agree that we are displacing funding. I do not think we're in violation of that. We are simply funding that one program with corrections had a temporary funding source for 1 year that was going to go away. It's housing seriously persistent mentally ill people that were coming out of jail that are homeless. It's very successful. It's being administered by Bridges to Change, a culturally specific provider. It marks every box that we wanted to achieve. So I just feel really strongly that we are not in violation of our plan or that displacement rule.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the program, and I think it's important, and I think it's important to fund it. I see an opportunity for us to engage with Metro so that we can really plan for the delta of what our plan was going to produce in the beginning. We have that opportunity right now to give our staff the ability to move forward. And I guess part of the reason why I'm so passionate, I don't know if people look at my Facebook at all, but on Sunday, there was a gentleman named Jason. He was sitting on a bench. He looked very thirsty. I offered him some water. He had his shoe off. His foot was abscessed. He told me it was from a heroin overdose. I talked with him, got him some water, and I just kind of got his story. And I just thought, this is someone that sleeps in Clackamas County on the grass. He sleeps in Clackamas County around the grass, around Clackamas Town Center. That's where he lives. He can't really walk because he has an abscess, but he didn't have any belongings. He had a backpack with a sweater that somebody had given to him. And we got him a meal. We talked to him for a while. He wasn't in mental distress. He was lucid. He was making his choice. He said he was okay. But it's like, what are we doing for the Jasons with this plan? Our local implementation plan provided us, we have to create the infrastructure in Clackamas County. We don't have it. And this delay, every day that we delay is a day that the people like him are not able to get the support and the services that are so vital. So what happens when Jace's abscess gets worse? He's going to,
Commissioner Fisher.
I'm just going to finish this one point.
But
He's going to
Commissioner
go
Savas is in the queue.
to the emergency room and cost our system more and more dollars. So all I'm saying is that we have an opportunity with Metro support to advance bridge funding to implement the plan that had so much community engagement with our residents, with the people that we reached out to, with Metro Oversight Committee, with this board, with Metro Council, and I am asking that we proceed with that.
Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, well, I'm going to just do a quick review. I just want to first say that, thank you, Jill. I think you addressed it correctly. I have no disagreement with what Jill stated. And I just want to say that, remember, folks, the LIP was approved in April. The letter we got from Metro in May about the funding not coming through was a month afterwards. That the board, the HACC board, met to do the budget, us. We identified those needs of the people that we didn't put on the street, and we put together a priority that our staff responded to, what was almost $10 million. The Housing Task Force was addressed to figure out where do we get $10 million, and we put a patchwork together to fund that need that Commissioner Fisher, you advocated for in a very passionate way. We met that. And staff has come back as late as a couple weeks ago to say, basically that we might need, because of the financing or the disbursements coming from Metro, is not as rosy as I was even thought, even though it wasn't really rosy. It was a very modest amount, but that's even less, that number's even falling. So therefore, that $3 million initial advance, and then the following two, when we thought more money would come, is changed. Now the scenario looks more like we need the $2 million sooner just to make the 10. So really, we're scraping together everything we can. And as I stated last week, this is where I want to start. As I stated last week, that the Metro and/or the Oversight Committee is not going to advance us any more money beyond the $5 million until we solve this confusion. And if we need to modify the LIP, whatever we need to do, get past this whole thing and make this justification, modify the LIP for a more modest one. The word I got, and also today, I got it from Metro last week, and I got it today as well. The same thing. Assurances that we need to solve this.
Solve what?
What you're raising, and what the nonprofits are raising. This is creating a delay. The only delay we have before us is resolving this.
What is this?
Everything you've been stating.
Well, why don't we direct staff
you are not,
to do a $24 million budget? That would solve the problem.
No, it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. We've already agreed internally that we are going to make budget adjustments as needed. There's not a problem with making the budget adjustment.
I don't follow at all what you're saying.
Well, then I follow what Jill's saying.
Well, that's because, Paul, you have been part with Martha of this administrator's task force.
It's not as deep as you think.
That is a problem because I don't get briefings.
You're getting them right now.
No, this isn't a briefing. This is not a briefing.
It's the same briefing that I'm getting, and I'm the chair, and I appointed the two. Now, listen, I suspect that we need to look at something very carefully. COVID cases are increasing, right? And every indication that I've had with the governor, speaking with her last week, speaking with her on Monday, that phone call with the governor yesterday was not fun. I think we're looking at possibly another lockdown in this state. If that happens, Paul and people, what do you think are going to happen to those tax revenues coming in from Metro that they can't collect right now? It means more businesses are going to be shut down. It could mean additional job loss. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we manage it differently than that. With that in mind, I'm even more inclined to stand pat on what we're doing and be extremely conservative in our projections and our spending. Commissioner Fisher, I appreciate your passion on this. I really do. But we cannot put a supplemental budget of $24 million in there, hoping it's going to come, and at the same time instruct staff to go ahead and figure out ways to do that. That's not how that this Board of County Commissioners going forward. I think maybe in the past, maybe some boards have done that, and the general fund has ended upside down, and this board and Gary has worked very hard to get us to a position in our funding where we are stable and sustainable. So I appreciate what you are talking about here. This is just an update. We are not going to take any action on it right now. Commissioner Savas.
I just want to assure Commissioner Fisher that because of these vacations and we haven't had the full task force, I will assure you that there will be more substance to this when we work all these details out. And I know that we're going to find a way to exceed the $10 million in services, and Jill and staff are helping with that, but that's going to take cooperation from Metro and the Oversight Committee to resolve this. And again, that was affirmed today when I spoke to Metro.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Fisher.
I was simply following up on what Jill had said to the Metro Oversight Committee, when we discussed this, that she was going to suggest that the board approve a $24 million budget, and that opportunity did not happen. And I really think, because our staff need to be able to work within a framework of what is allocated through a budget. It's really not possible to piecemeal. And it would give them the ability to work towards that, not spend before it would be there. Absolutely not. I'm absolutely in agreement with Chair Smith that we must be fiscally sustainable, for sure. We are all in alignment on that. But we also have the other emergency of what happens as COVID increases.
Was that Martha?
And there are more of a need on people being displaced and into homelessness.
Commissioner Schrader, are you in the queue?
Yeah, I'd like to mention that I've had a similar experience with Commissioner Fisher as I tried to help a homeless person who was in front of Safeway in the middle of the heat. And and Gary will tell you this, I spent about 3 hours trying to find them a place. By the time I could even get back to them, that person was gone. So I understand completely what we're facing. However, you're acting as if it's just 24 million. This is 24 million with interest that we will have to pay back to people. And what we're trying to Metro, we're trying to really roll it out as we can so we can be fiscally responsible. And in the end, I have not really felt, I'll be very direct and honest, as if the promises that were made with those dollars will actually come to fruition. I felt that when they first started this, because we were in the middle of a pandemic. I hate to say it. I don't like being right about that, but we will do everything we can under the umbrella of the money that we can put together now with the intent of trying to get more. But I will tell you, as someone who has worked just as hard with the homeless and who has founded communities where our agricultural workers who were homeless had to go, who have worked with this in a community in Canby that at the time wasn't always responsive. I am dedicated to this, but if we do not do this in a fiscally responsible way, where we are going to be indebted to a regional government where we can't pay them back, I have to be honest with you, I do not feel as if we were given the full, honest truth by the folks that moved this initiative forward. And I have stated that from the beginning, and I stand by that. But we will implement this because it's the right thing to do. But we will do it our way. We cannot do it their way. We will do what we can, and we will move forward. But taking $24 million at interest from the get-go, in my opinion, is irresponsible.
Yeah.
And I cannot be irresponsible with that. And I have done just as much as you have, Commissioner, helping these people on the ground at my own expense and with other nonprofits that I have worked with. So I would like to suggest that we please trust us to do the right thing to do, trust us to meet with Metro, and trust us to push back that the promises that were made are going to be kept. Because to me, that is the fundamental issue we're dealing with.
Yeah. Commissioner Schrader, I just want to clarify, I would never suggest that we go into debt with interest charges that the county would have to pay back. My interest is in bridge funding that would be in advance, which would not be a risk to the county, which is what I understand that Metro was willing to have conversations with us about. I am fully in agreement with you that we need to protect our financial security in Clackamas County. But I would really like this board to direct staff to engage more deeply in those conversations, and what would that look like? So I'm looking at Gary, I'm looking.
Stop. Martha,
Direct loan, no interest.
Martha,
That's what it would mean.
Martha?
That's fine. That's an advance. It wouldn't even be a loan. That's
Okay.
what I would like to see.
Okay, everybody stop right now. I suspect this board does not have broad support for this, but Commissioner Fisher, I'm going to allow you to make a motion, and we're going to vote on it and see where it goes. Now, what is your motion?
I would like to ask this board to direct staff to enter into conversations about what an advance would entail to implement the full implementation plan for the homeless services measure.
Now, the problem with that motion is I've heard something different from you today. I heard that you say that you wanted a supplemental budget of $24 million.
No, that's what Jill Smith said she was going to suggest to us.
Would you quit throwing staff under the bus?
I'm not throwing.
You
Jill,
are.
am I throwing you under the bus?
Stop. Stop it. Direct your conversation toward me. I'm engaging you in a conversation. You have come with a motion that is not what you have been currently talking about. You said you wanted a supplemental budget of $24 million. That is not the same as the motion that you just made. Do you want to amend your motion?
No, because I believe that it's appropriate for staff to bring that recommendation to us, and Jill had said that she was going to do that. She hasn't done that. I don't know why. So my motion today would be to direct staff to engage with Metro to see about what an advance would look like. That's it. And then it will be up to Jill to
May
decide.
I conduct the meeting according to the way the meeting should be conducted? There is a motion on the table. Do I hear a second? Going once, going twice. Motion dies for lack of a second. Commissioner Savas.
Just wanted to say that the intent of Commissioner Fisher's motion is actually what the task force is working on.
Right.
And it will take place, it is taking place. Wish it was happening faster, but it's not. No one to blame. It's going to happen.
Okay.
And one last thing I want to say, is that instead of looking at it as $24 million, look at it as $2 million a month.
Thank you.
Okay? Commissioner Fisher, Commissioner Schrader and I and staff are working on a month-to-month, quarter-by-quarter cash flow way to make this happen. So that's how we're doing it. We're trying to do it responsibly. And if we can ramp it up, we will ramp it up. If there's a budget adjustment to make, we'll make the budget adjustment. Trust me.
Okay, this conversation is ended. Gary, I suggest we move on to the next item on your list.
Yes. Jill Smith and Rod Cook, thank you for your leadership and your work on this very important topic. I support you both, and thank you for all you do. All right, here's my proposal. Let's talk about the economic impact to agriculture resolution. Then let's go to the policy session. We'll wrap up with Commissioner Communications. Hope to have you out by 5. How's that? Okay, so economic impact to agricultural industry due to high heat. A proposed resolution is in your packet. Chair Smith, please go ahead.
Yes, Commissioners, I've talked about this before, how important that I think we act on this resolution before the break, because we could come back from the break and be dealing with, hopefully not, any more emergencies due to our natural resources. I was driving home last night on Beaver Creek Road, and lo and behold, east over the mountains, the Bull of the Woods fire had gone into 3,800 acres. I think it might be controlled now. I'm not sure with that. Daniel's going to give us a briefing later on that. But as you know, we have experienced, because of the fire, ice, heat, led to systematic crop failure and the potential for economic disaster for thousands of Clackamas County farmers. And we have an idea of a plan going forward to engage our national folks on this, to bring attention to the plight of Oregon agriculture through the systematic weather events. I'm asking that Commissioners, if you would please approve this today. I assume that you've all read it. It has been vetted and it has had many eyes on it. Gary, see, we've had Oregon Department of Agriculture look at this. We've had the Extension Service.
Everyone.
I mean, the list is long. We've had EDI look at it.
Business and Community Services, our
Business commu-
agricultural team, Tourism and Cultural Affairs, all of our internal offices that impact this. The board goal that relates to this on food production, that team within the county from various departments have reviewed this. So the request is to put this on this Thursday's business meeting agenda for final approval.
County Council has done a lot of work on this, Commissioner Fisher.
Oh, are you done? I was just curious about our Office of Sustainability or
Yes,
any
they're
of
on that
the,
team. Yes, they looked it over too.
anybody else you missed that looked it over?
I don't recall who's on the food production list. PGA looked it over too. Anyone else? Chris, Stephen, do you recall? I forget who's on that implementation team, but everyone on that team, multiple departments, Transportation and Development.
Climate Action Group.
Climate Action Group, yep.
Food Group as well,
Yep.
yes.
And I would have to say, they
that
did
was
a
fast.
lot of work in a very short amount of time to get this done. I appreciate everybody who has had a say in this, not to mention at least Kimberly DeSantis in our office has also really lifted the ball on this and got us to this point. Is there any other comments from commissioners on this?
Chair, I've got a question.
Yes.
I read the resolution. It's excellent. The question people have is, when this is signed, will it give us leverage in the county with the state on future crop loss claims and that sort of thing?
Well, how this works, it's different, Commissioner Scholl, than other resolutions. This is not a declaration of an emergency. This is a resolution because damages for agriculture starts at the federal government and then it trickles down for us. For instance, if you remember the ice emergency that we signed moving forward, that started at the local level, went to the state, and then went to the federal government. This comes back. What we're trying to do here in conjunction with Governor Brown, her staff, who have done excellent work at the federal level, at the Department of Agriculture, U.S. Department of Agriculture, is we're trying to bring attention to this so we can take it to our congressional delegation, so it can land in some strategy's hands. And there's legislation in Congress right now on the House Agriculture Committee to take a look at specialty crops. Now, Oregon is considered to have a lot of specialty crops, and they're listed in here. Congress, they understand what corn, wheat, and soy is, but they have a hard time wrapping their head around what we're doing out here in Oregon. And part of this is an awareness and education effort that PGA and all of us who want to participate in it is more than willing to start talking about it and really bringing it home.
Okay, good.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion, Commissioner Scholl.
Yeah, I move that we approve the resolution as written by Chair Smith.
And others. Thank you very much. Motion has been made by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion on this?
Just bringing to light those Christmas trees. And I really appreciate that they're highlighted in the resolution, because that really breaks your heart to see.
It does, doesn't it?
Yep.
And we like our Noble for Christmas trees because they smell so good, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, seeing no other discussion, does Paul want to vote on this?
We got enough to vote
So
on
all you're
it.
doing is moving to the Thursday agenda where
Got
you'll
it.
formally approve it there.
Okay, we don't have to vote, Gary?
Technically, no.
Okay, that's fine. Let's move on, Gary.
Is that okay? Commissioner Shull, withdraw your motion?
Certainly.
But we'll put it on this Thursday's business meeting agenda for your final author approval.
That's fine.
Okay, next, your single policy session today, Emergency Preparedness Council approval. We have all the documentation to finalize this if you're ready today. Daniel Neibauer, Interim Director of Disaster Management. Chris Lyons, are you coming too? No? Okay, just Daniel Neibauer, Disaster Management Director. Come on down. You did a great job, staff and team, in very short notice. Go ahead, Daniel.
All right, good afternoon, Chair Smith, Commissioners, and Administrator Smith. I'm Daniel Neibauer, Interim Director of Disaster Management. On July 20th, the Board approved the formation of an Emergency Preparedness Council. The Board directed Disaster Management and PGA to bring back documentation, including the bylaws, scope of work, which is included in the bylaws, and a recruitment plan. The bylaws are built off of a standard template from PGA, and I will do an abbreviated review of Article 3 and 4 of the bylaws, as well as a a recruitment plan. Happy to take questions on other articles afterwards, but I think articles.
We heard that.
Article 3 and 4 are a large meat of the bylaws, and we'll go there. So if you'll start on page 1 of the bylaw, page 3 of the packet, yes. Looking at the purpose of the group, the purpose of the Emergency Preparedness Council is to review and offer advice in all matters relating to emergency management and disaster preparedness. This council shall submit its observations and recommendations for improvement to the Disaster Management Department and the County Board of Commissioners. Looking down at the goals of the Emergency Preparedness Council are to advise the Disaster Management Department and Clackamas Board of County Commissioners in the development of activities, strategies, and priorities to achieve disaster preparedness within the boundaries of Clackamas County. Second goal, promote disaster management initiatives and activities, participate in community education and engagement. Third goal, advocate for policy and system changes that improve the disaster preparedness in Clackamas County. Optional activities could include providing oral written testimony, helping to identify partners of support for preparedness, and participating in legislative activities. Fourth goal, strengthen intergovernmental collaboration and enhance collaboration between governments and partners on an ongoing basis. And fifth goal, development strategies to enhance collaboration among governmental bodies and the general public. Article 4 highlights the membership. As we discussed, there are 15 members. We've suggested breaking that down into 7 community representatives representing the disaster zones, which we're talking about basically 1 member per every 3 zones, because there's 21 zones. 3 community members representing, or at large, 3 community members at large representing our diverse population. 2 representatives from a community-based nonprofit organization, 2 community planning organization or hamlet representatives, and 1 public healthcare representative. There's a suggestion for 8 ex officio non-voting members, which will be all 5 members of the Board of County Commissioners, 1 local utility representative, a representative from Clackamas County Fire Defense Board, and a representative from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. And all of those will be appointed for a term of 3 years, with the exception of in the beginning, we'd like to stagger those so that we don't have 15 members coming in every year, as we can do 5 every year. That is the bylaws. Like I said, I'll do an abbreviated review of that in time. And if you look at the last page, which discusses the recruitment plan, we're suggesting a 30-day recruitment using the standard recruitment application used for all ABCs within Clackamas County. Highlighted below are the methods for outreach, and the selection recommendation with the responsibility of disaster management, with, of course, appointment being the responsibility of the Board of County Commissioners. That's what I have. What questions may I answer?
Any questions or comments for Daniel?
Great work.
Yeah.
I think this, you're right, I think this is just yeoman's work. I'm very pleased. There's a lot of thought, consideration, and I think you listened to all the commissioners on what they wanted to get out of this. Gary, do we vote on this?
Need a motion to approve the bylaws, the scope, and move forward on the recruitment. That's the request.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been made by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any other further discussion on this? Seeing none. Shannon, could you do the poll?
Commissioner Schultz?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Gary, does this go to the business meeting?
No, this approval accounts. We're moving forward. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, staff. You pulled this together in under a month. Well done.
Yes, you did.
Bravo.
Excellent, thank you.
Bravo. Okay, the final item, back to issues, is Commissioner Communications.
Commissioner Communications. Martha, you want to go first?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you very much. It's 1 a.m. in the morning here, or close to it, in England, and I've been through my 3rd COVID test. So far, so good. I'm still negative. So traveling internationally has been quite the ordeal. I will be attending all of our meetings, however, this week. And am glad that The technology, despite some of the glitches, has allowed me to join you all. So thank you very much, and my grandchildren thank you as well.
Oh, good. Good, excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Fisher, you're up. You have a card up.
Oh, yeah. Just do it, it's habit. So thank you. So I was not in attendance at Thursday's board meeting. I had a longstanding conflict, but I was able to watch part of it online and have been engaged with a lot of the concerns that had happened. I have many concerns about the security of the building and how meetings are done in the future, and I'm very pleased to have talked to Gary about that, and I understand that staff has been working. They've already had like 3 meetings, and they're dealing with that, so that is not what I'm going to talk about today. I do want to share, I don't know if you all saw in your email that the Public Health Council, and I'll just read this, they had emailed us today. I heard their discussion about this during the Public Health Council meeting last evening, and they are recommending the following. State and county data shows that COVID-19 pandemic will be worsening over the next several months in Clackamas County as the Delta variant continues to take hold, resulting in rising cases and deaths each week. Very simply, if all residents wear masks in public spaces and at large gatherings, there will be fewer cases and fewer deaths. Additionally, if all residents who are eligible for the COVID vaccine receive it immediately, the pandemic could be contained in Clackamas County within weeks. Based on this information, the Clackamas County Public Health Advisory Council supports the recent reinstating of the statewide mask mandate and promotion of vaccine of all eligible individuals against COVID-19 to the greatest extent possible. Additionally, we ask the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners to publicly support the reinstatement of Oregon's mask mandate and publicly urge all eligible Clackamas County citizens to get vaccinated as quickly as possible to quell the spread of COVID-19. And so with that, I would like to make a motion that this board accept the Public Health Advisory Council's recommendation.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Commissioner Savas.
I don't see legal counsel in the room, but I agree with the intent and I saw the letter, but Gary, maybe you can help on this. I don't believe that it was the state that implemented the mandate. The county, to say reinstate, the county reinstate. Did we instate the state policy? I don't believe we did. I think we abided by the state policy. Is that true?
Yes, and I assume this council met prior to the governor reinstating the state mandates, because prior to last week, counties had the option, if you chose as the public health authority, to do that on your own, like Multnomah County did, but then the governor made her call after this group met. So in essence, the governor already made the choice for us statewide.
Right. So if the motion is amended, I can certainly support something that supports the intent of the letter, but we can't reinstate something we really didn't instate in the first place.
They're talking about the state's reinstating of the statewide mask mandate.
Well, if the motion is to recognize the state mandate and abide by it, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, that's what it is. You want to see it?
Yeah, thank you.
This is their comments, and then they're asking us this specifically.
Well, maybe we could just, the word reinstate's not the right word. That's just all I'm saying. So if the motion is to, the Board of County Commissioners support the Oregon's mask mandate and urge all eligible Clackamas County citizens to get vaccinated as quickly as possible to quell the spread of COVID-19, I can go with that.
Okay, then.
Just a minute. I believe that would call for an amended motion, but Commissioner Scholl.
Chair Fisher, or Commissioner Fisher, I understand your concern, but when it comes to advocating vaccines, the county for months has had a program that advocated vaccines and made them available to anybody who wanted them. we continue to have those vaccines available throughout the county. I don't see what your motion is going to do to change that. And anybody who wants a vaccine can get one by 5 o'clock at many locations in the county. And in terms of the masks, we're already in this room complying with the governor's mandate from, I believe it was Thursday night, went into effect on a Friday. So I don't see what your motion is going to do to change what we're already doing.
I agree with that, too. I think this is redundancy. I think this is a move to position some members on this board in a political light. I will not support any motion ever that has the word mandate for our citizens. I've been very clear on that, commissioners. I've also heard commissioners say they do that. They have also supported no mandates. If you want to take out the word mandate, I could support it, but I will not vote for this. If, commissioners, you want to pass this, I will explain myself ad nauseum on every piece of social media that you can imagine, because that is my right to do so, because I will not be pigeonholed. I will not go back on my word to the citizens of this county. If you want me to support this as your chair, I will, without the word mandate.
So here's what I think it's powerful if, you all know this, I've said this over and over, it's always more powerful when all the board members are in agreement and it's consensus. So I am happy to work on some language between now and Thursday to pass something on Thursday if Commissioner Fisher would agree with that. I have a lot to say about Thursday, and I know we don't really have time and it's late, but I have a number of concerns. I can't unpack it all here today. I probably won't even unpack it completely on Thursday, frankly. But I think that the intent and the worry out there is that because of Thursday's business meeting, the message that left here for hours of the length of that meeting was basically contrary to, I think, in my opinion, the health and safety in recognition of the spiking cases. I think what we heard was a lot of people who had a different belief, and it dominated the messaging all night long. And so a number of people, including myself, are very concerned about, people are questioning, what is the position of Clackamas County? And so I really believe that a united voice on some language that we could all accept, that's something that reflects our responsibility as a Board of Health, something that reflects our responsibility as a Board of County Commissioners to get in front of this. And I'm not going to discount people's passion that they brought here Thursday evening. I don't agree with a number of things that were said, but I recognize their passion.
Mm-hmm. We've also heard the other side be as equally as passionate, and we've allowed those voices over and over and over. And I think what had happened on Thursday was really an organic messaging that happened beyond any commissioner to show up here, because we are one of the few governments around that allows for public testimony. And I'll state this again, I think the reason why we had so many people here is because people are very frustrated, they're very angry, and they're very tired on all sides, not just one side or another. I suggest in our future language we don't try to pit good health against those who don't want good health, or one side that's against other. It's a conglomeration of all kinds of opinions. We know the legislature did not allow for public testimony and their people. Our school boards have taken that away. I'm not sure exactly what our local city councils are doing. I just don't know. But I have heard from people that nobody is listening to us. And we managed the meeting as well as could have been to allow people to give their voice. I don't know why we need to do this when it's very obvious to me, based on my conversation with the governor yesterday and the chairs of all the county commissions, that she is perfectly poised to do mandates. Now, I don't think that we need to double down on our citizens and somehow place a mandate on them that they are misbehaving. And that's why I don't support mandates, because it takes away the personal responsibility, liberty, and everything else that goes along with that. We are continuing in our efforts in the county government. Businesses are free to ask for masks if they want to. We are continuing to vaccinate at a very high rate in this county. We'll continue on that messaging going forth and putting out vaccinations to as many people who want to take them. But I'm going to be very clear with this board. You heard me on this. I will not support any language in anything that has mandate in it.
So I didn't anticipate a motion here today under commissioner comments. I still have my commissioner comments I'd like to make.
Yes,
So I want to make that perfectly clear. So there's still a motion on the table, and I would just ask the motion maker, Commissioner Fisher, to, maybe we can work on some language between now and Thursday that will get all 5 commissioners on board. And then I think I have something else that I would like to ask, aside from this motion, I don't want to confuse things, that would include something as far as messaging that would take place on Thursday as well. So Commissioner Fisher, would you help me with that?
So Gary, how's that going to work?
Basically, if Commissioner Fisher is willing to withdraw her motion and allow us to work something out for Thursday, and then present that on Thursday, then we can work together on some language that gets the board on the same page.
Okay, I want to see that 24 hours ahead of time.
Okay.
Because I'm the chair, and I don't want to be blindsided. I'm blindsided today with this, Commissioner Fisher. I'm blindsided by your motion today, as all of our board is. That's why I won't support it. Secondly, firstly, is because of a mandate. Commissioner Fisher, your card's up.
Thank you. My interest today, I am the Public Health Advisory Council liaison. They brought this forth. My motion today is that this board will take the recommendation, which is that the County Board of Commissioners publicly support the reinstatement of Oregon's mask mandate and publicly urge all eligible Clackamas County citizens to get vaccinated as quickly as possible to quell the spread of COVID-19. That is their recommendation to us, and my motion is just that we accept that. And I think that taking a vote on this is appropriate at this time, and if we want to work on other communications for the next couple days, I'm happy to do that with you, Commissioner Savas.
So there's accept, there's approve, there's like 3 or 4 A's, acknowledge, there's a number of A's that when people ask us to do things, right? And I think the chair is making a good point, is that I read it, I don't have any major disagreement with it, but if it's in the form of a motion and there's that inconsistency about reinstate, I think that we ought to be accurate about it. So I think the intent is to get somewhere with that. If it's just simply acknowledge receipt, I can do that now.
No, it's
Okay.
to accept the recommendation.
Okay, so.
Go ahead, Paul.
So in good faith, following the board rules about no surprises and everything else, I move to table this until Thursday.
At which time we will entertain different language. I'm going to add an addendum to that. Okay, we're going to move to table supersedes other motions. We're going to consider that now. Gary, are you looking?
Yes, lay on the table does supersede the motion, and you need a second for that motion, and then you vote immediately.
I'll second the motion to table. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none. Christina, I'm sorry. Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader?
No.
So the motion is to move to table.
Move the table till Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Commissioner Schrader, is that?
and I said no.
Okay. Commissioner Schultz?
Yeah.
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
No.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Yes, motion passes 3-2.
So the motion is tabled, so the original motion is off the table.
Okay. So So Chair,
Yes.
if Commissioner Fisher is completed, or comments?
Okay, yeah, Paul,
Okay.
go ahead.
I just want to again, restate that my issue is with the word reinstate and some other words, so we'll get to a good place.
And I have an
Yep.
issue with mandate.
Right.
So I think
Got it.
if you want to get to 5-0 and without dissension among our board, I suggest that those words be nuanced carefully as we go forward.
Okay.
Paul, do you have commissioner comments?
Yes, I do. I have 2 points I want to raise. I think the first one is a short one. I think it's short. I really think that it's important for us to have either our medical staff state or a presentation or something to update us in this is a crisis. The hospitalizations has spiked higher than ever. The daily case counts are higher than ever. Okay? And there's a new variant on the scene as well, by the way. So I take all that very seriously. And I think it's important that we limit the time we spend at our business meeting, but I think it's important at our business meeting to have that until this emergency subsides. So that's my first request.
I agree with that.
Okay. My second request, that's a request. The other one's not a request, it's a statement. And I think Gary's already working on it. I think Commissioner Fisher already kind of addressed that. I was very unhappy with what occurred on Thursday. And what my main concern that gave me pause through the entire meeting and into the evening was how many people in this building, staff, ourselves, each other, the public that was here, the children that were here with the public, staff, everyone in the building was at risk. They were at risk in a number of ways. We exceeded the capacity of this building. We exceeded the capacity of this room. Chair, I think you acknowledged that at some point in the meeting, I believe. However, I think that what we should have done was to get I didn't realize until afterwards, I got reports afterwards of how packed it was. I knew it was packed. But that was a risk that I don't think whether it's a captain of a ship, or it's the chair of the board, or it's the administrator who's responsible for these facilities, or whoever it may be, everyone has an inherent responsibility as the lead to make sure that the health and welfare of everyone is sound. People are safe. We're not putting people at risk. This building was overpacked. There were people that were, frankly, with the COVID pandemic we have, that were in people's space beyond acceptance, okay? That were leaning over into our staff space, into our hours in light of that. I'm assuming by a lot of their testimony that some of these people that were leaning over, it's their right, they weren't vaccinated. A lot of them. They said that. So that gave me pause. So that's another risk level that was added to folks in the room. I want to go back to the first one. The first one, had there been anyone who had a medical emergency, had anyone overreacted, that there was no safe passage for emergency personnel to get in here or out of here. That's the premise. That's the basis. Had there been even a fire, whatever it may have been, and we've had medical emergencies in here before. I've witnessed them. It's important that our people can get in and out of this building safely. That is the purpose of the code for capacity. And I'm looking at the administrator. He's assured me that he's going to take steps to make sure this building's more secure, but we've got to up our game. What happened Thursday night, from a capacity standpoint, cannot happen again. And I implore everyone to take the steps necessary to make sure that doesn't happen again. I'll have more on this and other issues on Thursday, but I thought those are the most pertinent, most important that they're addressed as possible. Gary, thank you. You've indicated that you are taking steps and looking into other options and alternatives.
Thank you, Commissioner Savitz. Commissioner Shaw.
Yes. Recently, I've attended meetings with the Cottrell Government Camp and Stafford CPOs. I'd like to share some details with you on that on Thursday. But in regards to this last Thursday night meeting, you know, I was elected to represent the will of the people. And on Thursday night, yes, we had some issues. We had a lot of people here. Yes, we had people who didn't want to wear masks. But what I want to say about Thursday night is this. On Thursday night, we had an example of free people expressing their opinions, and God bless them for taking the time to come here. They're frustrated. They've had a hard time the last 18 months, and they just want to express their views, and they did on Thursday night. And I commend the staff and the board and people who were here making that meeting happen to give those people a chance to feel like they expressed their views, and they did. And so I'm thankful for the ability of people to meet like they did on Thursday night, despite the problems we might have had. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Regarding Thursday night, and before that, Gary, Paul, I, Stephen Madcore, and staff had met and thought that we would manage that by allowing for room capacity to come in and shut the doors. And by all means, and thought that did happen. And then it didn't happen. And we thought maybe we might have 300 people, which meant we could probably let, less than half of them in, and the others would stay. I went out downstairs into the front doors outside and said we were at capacity. We cannot allow any more people in. Please come back next week, go online, go on Zoom, or submit your testimony in writing. I came upstairs and I conducted a meeting, and I have to say it was trying. It was a trying meeting to maintain calm and order, and I think we accomplished that. I have met with Gary. We are just in very, 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 very challenging circumstances. And we're going to work through this, and we're going to make it better. I think our staff performed marvelously under extremely hard circumstance. And by all means, they did their jobs as best I've seen staff do jobs, and I'm wholly appreciative to them. Gary has put a plan together in how we can manage future large crowds, possibly be meeting in a different location than the other buildings where there's overflow. He has hired security to come on board to help maintain the flow of people up through here. But I will maintain that people have a right to come before us and voice their opinion on the actions we're taking as their elected government. I don't ever want to be in a position of telling people they can't come forward. And since I came on in January, we have listened to a lot of disparaging comments regarding different commissioners. All of us. But that's a First Amendment right that I am willing to uphold. We will manage our way through this. And Gary, I think you have a plan going forward. I see no problem in bringing back our weekly reports from Philip, if you want to do that. I think maybe it was, your decision that we wouldn't do it because things were waning and we wanted to get on and move on with other issues. We do have some, like I say, was online with the governor and the other county commissioners. Yesterday I talked with hospital officials at Sunnyside Kaiser discussing their hospital capacity and what can be done to expand that, and I had some good ideas from them. We talked back and forth on that. And there are some things that government can be doing to help hospitals, and I offered up. I think maybe Philip is going to be bringing forth some ideas soon on that to help manage COVID better, and I think we need to consider ideas that we had not considered before. Because I will say, the longer we go with this, the longer people are going to be angry, and we're going to experience more anger. And I tell you, I don't like it. I don't like what happened Thursday night. I was not comfortable doing that. But if we would have not allowed any of those people to come forward, I think the repercussions would have been more far-reaching, and we would have had just to deal with it maybe this Thursday. So the decision to have the business meeting and allow people to testify was a difficult one. We didn't know that this hearing room would be packed the way it is. Nobody could have foreseen that ever, that would have happened. So we're going to work on getting it better. We're going to work on education to the people who come forward. And, you know, I don't want to be at odds with my commissioners over this whatsoever. You know what? I am in the end of the commissioner comments. We're going to adjourn today. And any of the commissioners that want to address these comments with me privately, and then we can address them on Thursday.
Chair, if you would just give us the courtesy of a couple minutes. This is a big issue.
I don't know that, Commissioner Salas,
I
don't know that this is a debate.
I'm not interested in debating it. I just want to clarify a couple things. I'm not debating anything here, and I'm trying to be respectful. Actually, with the motion that Commissioner Fisher made and everyone, I'm trying to respect the board rules, no surprises, all those kinds of things. So I'm trying to abide. I'm hoping everyone, all of us, try to abide. But I think it's important to clarify something. We, on the strategy, were given information that there will be a lot of people here. And Gary's advice, which I thought was good, was his consideration of just going totally virtual because of the people, because we didn't really have the manpower. So we advocated for that. We didn't get there. I understand that. We took measures about asking for law enforcement or whatever help we could, manpower it took to secure the doors and get capacity in there. But I think we did know roughly that we would have a lot of people in this room. And I think that's just something that I believe it's important to clarify, is that, you know, we did. Now, you're right. You're absolutely right. Everyone has a right, citizens of this county, to have an opportunity to speak. But, you know, if this COVID thing gets worse, we are going to have more people come on all sides with all different issues and angles. And I think we need to realize that the people that were online could have had the same opportunities. I mean, there was an issue that was raised. I was surprised that the people in the room were given the courtesy to add on and fill out their cards after the rule, but the people online were not. And
That's not true, by the way. I'm going to have Gary.
Okay.
I'm going to have Gary.
That's a perception.
That's why I wanted this conversation in
Yeah.
private, Paul, because there's some assumptions being made that aren't true.
Yeah, so in preparation for Thursday, we can clarify how that happened, but I think some of those things, that's a perception. I said, I didn't know. I don't know what the circumstances are. I don't know what the circumstances are even yet, because I even had heard Gary explain why the people online didn't have that. But what did happen?
But the point is, the people online did get to testify.
They didn't get the same opportunity to
I disagree.
request testimony that they, after the fact, like the people in the room did. They didn't get that opportunity to apply.
Before you go further on that, please let Gary bring a point of clarification on that. Gary, talk about the blue cards coming in.
So for people in the room, several people came to me and said, I was here before 6 o'clock. Because of the crowd, I could not get to the table where the cards were. I didn't realize there were cards. I now understand that. Since I was here, may I fill out a card? I made the judgment, because they demonstrated to me they were here. They simply couldn't get to the table, that would be appropriate, and I told that to the chair and told her my recommendation, which is why I gave those cards. I wasn't willy-nilly. It was people who demonstrated to me they were here at 6. They literally couldn't get to the table where the cards were at.
As a
That's
matter
right.
of fact, I did have at least one card, maybe two blue cards that I did not call on because I thought it was after time. So I took the recommendation of the administrator to go ahead and allow those people to give their testimony. That's why that happened, Paul.
Yep.
And it's always been the policy, by the way, it's always been the policy of this commission that the people who are in person get to testify first, those online go last. And I felt that I was as fair as I could have been under the circumstances. And please keep in mind, there was a lot of energy in the room. Gary tried to text me as I'm trying to let people come in every minute, and it was an extremely difficult meeting to chair. Just going to let you know that.
Yeah, if I could just say anything else, I forgot to say, and that is that while I was quiet during a lot of that testimony and afterwards, the reason I was quiet is I certainly did not want to incite any more anger or anything else by making my comments. I was extremely concerned for the safety of others, so I withheld my commentary, but I will be talking on Thursday, heads up, and I would ask for the graciousness of the time it's going to take to express myself.
I have never cut any commissioner off during commissioner communication, and I don't intend to now.
Yeah, and on Thursday, it seemed like the only people that had the liberty of speaking uninterrupted were on one side, and that wasn't your call, but there were anyone who had a different opinion or appeared to have a different opinion was interrupted the entire evening. And those are primarily the online folks. There was chatter.
I gavelled the people down in the room. I said that they would be removed. I said I would clear the room if it didn't stop, that the people online had just as much right to their opinions as those in the room. And I handled that, I thought, fairly well considering. So I do not believe, Paul, that I showed any difference to the people in the room that I did to the people online. As a matter of fact, I'll say this, the people online have showed up practically every single Thursday since January, and the people in the room, most of them, it's the first time they had ever testified. And I think that we need to be sympathetic to our first-time people who testify, regardless of what their opinions are. But if you go back and you look at the tape on that, you will see that when they started catcalling the people online, I believe I used my gavel and/or my voice to maintain order in the hearing room. Are you done?
Yeah, you did. It wasn't as effective as it could have been. Not your fault, but it just wasn't fully effective.
Do you want to say something, Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, we got to figure out a way that we can effectively communicate with each other when these concerns are apparent. So Thursday morning, before I saw the Facebook post that was saying Tootie Smith needs our help, come to the board meeting, or Commissioner Scholl promoting the Moms Union coming to the meeting, I didn't know any of that, but I was concerned about the rising Delta cases, the indoor space, and the angry constituents that could potentially cause an unsafe environment for all of us. And I put out an SOS to Gary, to Philip, to you, Tootie, to Stephen Madcorn, to my policy advisor, to please, I know I will not be there, but please strongly consider holding this meeting virtually for the safety of all. And I don't know how to communicate, because I can't pull in Commissioner Savas, because that's a daisy chaining situation. I can't call in Commissioner Scholl or Commissioner Schrader. All I can do is communicate to my county administrator and my chair, and to my public health director. And then I shared, as I got face screenshots of Chair Smith is calling people to the meeting, we need to help her, come to the meeting.
Okay, stop that.
I forwarded that.
That is not true.
No, I have them. And
I know that was on certain Facebook pages. I did not do that. But by the way, it's within my right. It's within anybody's right to ask for people to come.
Sure.
But That was not something that originated from me. That originated outside.
I didn't claim that it was, Chair
But you know
Smith.
what? You're bringing it up to try, I believe, you know why. And if we want to discuss this on Thursday, I'm prepared to come this Thursday.
I'm concerned about our channel of communications, and I don't know how to be effective with these kinds of concerns, because I could foresee what happening, and I tried the best I could to have a voice, and it was not, I could not penetrate the situation. How do we do that? What do we do, Chair Smith? You are our chair. What do we do when we have a concern in an emergency?
Well, it wasn't an emergency at that time.
I think that people could see that it could evolve into an emergency. And when I heard from staff today that the doors were breached and staff could not keep people out, and there was a real concern, and seeing the concern and the terror and the the stress of all of that, that is not okay, ever, that is to occur. And how do we communicate, Chair Smith, to alleviate these kinds of concerns?
You're doing it right now.
But before the tragedy, and thank goodness that no one was physically hurt.
Gary, you want to make a comment?
Commissioners, you can contact each other at any time. That's not serial voting. You can call, text, email. I did get your email, Commissioner, and I can't remember if I responded to you, and I probably didn't, but we did talk about it at our strategy team after I saw your email. So your message was delivered. I'm sorry for not looping back to you that your message was received. But you can definitely contact each other, call each other, email each other, and share input and ideas at any time, which you did, Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, I think, Commissioner Fisher, you did the right thing by contacting the administrator. I think that was the right thing to do. The message, I think, it sounds to me like the message about, sounding the alarm, there might be a lot of people. Gary shared that with me. He didn't share with me what the sources were, but it certainly came to the attention, and it was considered before the meeting, and adjustments were made. I don't want to discount the adjustments that the chair attempted to make. I'm not going to discount that at all. In hindsight, I wish we would have gone virtual, in hindsight. But fortunately, no one got hurt. And I just hope no one comes down. I hope it wasn't a super spreader event. Yeah, that's what I hope. And it's too soon to tell, perhaps.
So maybe I'm going to suggest that if I'm going to send an email like this, I'm going to send it to everyone, and I don't want any response that will be serial deliberations. Because, Gary, I disagree with you. If I talk to Chair Smith and say, I think this meeting should be done virtually, she doesn't respond. And then I go to Paul and say, Paul, I really think you and I should come together and talk to Martha and overrule the chair in doing this meeting. That is a deliberation, and we can't do that as a public body. So we have a challenge before us, and I'm very careful about following the law, probably too much so, but we need to find a way. So what I am going to suggest is that we have an agreement on this board that if any one of us is very concerned about something, that we share it with everyone, but we do not serial deliberate. We do not respond on email in writing.
I don't have a problem with that. I can do that. I can send out an email saying I'm concerned about this, we should take this action. It's up to the commissioners to make a decision, to have conversations. Part of the problem is that I feel, commissioners, we're not in our offices a lot of the times ahead of time that we can walk across the hall and talk to somebody about it. And call me old-fashioned, but that's the best communication there is face-to-face, because you can read people, you can feel them, you can get a sense of, their angst or their pleasure or their displeasure. And it's very hard to communicate, I believe, by text and email to fully understand. So I would suggest, if we could, is to engage in those communications throughout the week. I mean, I'm in here most all days, and things come up. Things constantly come up in my day as chair that I wish that my commissioners were in the room to discuss, but I'm very hesitant to put it in an email and/or a text because of FOIA. Seriously, and you and I both have had FOIA requests. I think every one of us have had FOIA requests, because somehow that we put out in the public, oh, but Chair Smith said this and this and this, and it's going to be misconstrued. So that's why I think it's important that we come into the office on a regular basis and discuss these things back and forth.
While we're on this topic, I've requested time with you, Chair Smith, because I know that you have been frustrated with me. I've tried to go through staff. I've asked you personally. I said coffee, tea, lunch, a walk. Might want to go to happy hour, want to get together this weekend? How about we go to the Street of Dreams? What do you want to do? Let's talk, because the conflict, any conflict on this board is unhealthy. And I don't know how to get time with you.
Well, as I remember, I don't remember Street of Dreams, I don't remember dinner or any of that. You asked me, as we're sitting down at our 10 a.m. meeting, can we go to lunch that day? I had, 2 hours notice? I already had my.
No, that's fine.
My schedule's challenged.
Go
I
through
haven't heard
staff.
anything from you since then.
The offer is there. I would really like to
Sure,
connect
I'll
with you.
talk to anybody. I will talk to
good.
anybody. But,
So we'll get that on the calendar.
well, I'm going to tell you, Commissioner Fisher, I do have an issue talking with you alone. And I'm going to say that up front.
Fine.
Because I do not want, I need a witness in the room, it's lunch, if it's coffee, because I don't want to be misrepresented in our conversations. And that has happened.
Okay.
Any other further discussion?
Happy hour.
Seeing none, this meeting's adjourned.